Deep within the labyrinth of America's government, a storm is brewing. The untouchable globalists, whose puppet masters nestled in the bureaucracy, thought they'd buried their secrets forever. But now President Trump and his inner circle are sharpening the knives. They're ready to drag these shadowy figures into the light, to sacrifice them on the altar of a furious public for crimes that stretch from the COVID pandemic to decades of globalist deceptions and hidden agendas. Sweeping reforms are coming, a purge to rip the global elite's tentacles from US soil. And leading the pack straight to the guillotine, Dr. Anthony Fauci. His preemptive pardon ripped up, his past crimes under a microscope, his fate all but sealed. The clock is ticking, the pieces are moving, and trust me, you won't believe what's about to drop. Before we dive in, join the TPV free speech community over on Soju. Soju is a digital space where ideas and information can take place without any annoying algorithms or restrictive rules getting in the way of free expression. The global elite thought they'd hit the jackpot with Joseph Biden, a perfect pawn for their twisted game. Corrupt to the core, compromised beyond redemption, and barely clinging to coherence. This puppet president spent 4 years as their willing tool. Whatever his shadowy master slid across his desk, he signed, sometimes without even lifting a finger, letting an auto pen do the dirty work. For them, he was the ideal frontman, a hollow shell, obediently greenlighting their agenda, while the string stayed firmly out of sight. Such blatant treason cannot be allowed to stand, especially when Biden's last acts involved the unprecedented preemptive pardoning of a roster of globalist lapdogs and outright criminals. President Donald Trump has declared that last-minute pardons that President Joe Biden issued in the final hours of his term are void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. When asked if the pardons would hold up in court, Trump said, "It's not my decision. That will be up to a court."
To follow up on the Biden auto pen, are those executive orders, those pardons from the former president now null and void?
Well, I think so. It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court. But I would say that they're null and void because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an auto pen to sign off and to give pardons.
The bad news for Anthony Fauci, the modern-day Joseph Mengele, is that the court in question will not be some cushy civilian circus. No, it's a military tribunal. That's right, brass, bars, and no-nonsense justice. A Trump administration insider warns that Fauci's days of strolling free are ticking down to zero. Destination? Guantanamo Bay. A one-way ticket to a cell block reserved for America's most treacherous betrayers. Trump is not playing games. He's dusting off powers that allows the military to scoop up US citizens deemed threats to the nation. And he's clearing space at Gitmo as we speak. This isn't just another roundup, this is a reckoning. A purge for a rare breed of traitors. Those who've betrayed America, handing it over to the shadowy global elites lurking behind the veil. We're exposing the masterminds of chaos caught in the act, unleashing pandemics, weaving globalist mind games, and corralling the masses like livestock into a dystopian abyss. Take this broken soul, for instance.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at me.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
My mandible
Yeah.
is locked.
Yeah.
My tongue is protruding here.
Oh, okay.
I can't speak.
Okay.
Just bring me home.
This is what starts happening.
The global elite were running a script decades in the making, engineered by a finely calibrated killing machine that thrives on chaos and control. But now, the tables are turning. The hunters are becoming the hunted. And the cage doors at Guantanamo are swinging wide open. Understand that when Trump says they're looking at the statute of limitations, this is very, very bad news for Fauci, whose pardon has been ripped up, and whose heinous crimes stretch back decades.
Will there be accountability for the lying to Congress when you get to appoint your new AG Deputy AG.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at statute of limitations because, you know, the statute of limitations are quite long, and we're going to be looking at that very seriously, yeah.
In the same way that Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengelé's crimes horrified the world when his atrocities were exposed after World War II, the scope and reach of Fauci's horrific experiments on animals, children, and society at large are leaving investigators stunned. This man is a straight-up psychopath, whose parallels with Mengele are frightening. Imagine this. Fauci takes your own beloved dog, locks it in a room with swarms of starving sandflies, traps its head in a cage, cuts out its vocal cords so it can't even whimper, and lets those flies eat it alive. All while taunting you that he's spending the money you paid the government. Why did Fauci subject those puppies to such agony? Was it critical to his research? Hardly. He did it for one chilling reason. Because he could.
In the case of those experiments, those dogs were going to be force-fed and injected with massive doses of experimental drugs to poison them to see at what point they got sick or died. And those tests will have no relevance for the safety and efficacy of that drug in human beings.
Some people just want to watch the world burn. And Fauci, he's one of them. But hold on, because it gets even darker. This was only the beginning for him. In Hawthorne, New York, the bodies of thousands of children killed by Fauci in illegal medical experiments were unearthed, stacking up undeniable evidence to charge the former NIH director with a litany of crimes against humanity and atrocities against children.
Tony Fauci made sure that none of those kids had guardians, which is illegal, and then he hid what he was doing from the boards. He took foster homes in 6 states, and he turned them over to the pharmaceutical industry. You know, there's videos of these children, an old BBC documentary that will make you cry. I promise you, you cannot look at these without weeping. One of these kids, a 12-year-old who's trying to protect the 8-year-old, and he has a tube in his stomach. Celia Farber, who's this amazing researcher who worked on this chapter for me and did a lot of the original research on it. She actually went up to Hawthorne, New York, to the Gates of Heaven Cemetery. She found the cemetery where Fauci was disposing of the corpses of these children who died in his illegal experiments. She found an open pit. It was actually covered by an astroturf carpet. She opened the astroturf carpet and she saw hundreds and hundreds of tiny little coffins stacked haphazardly upon each other, because these are children who have no parents and nobody was there to protect them.
Why wasn't this front page news in every newspaper in the world? Where is the mainstream media? The short answer is the mainstream media is hard at work covering up the crimes of the global elite, including Fauci's depraved activities. But the tide has turned. Prosecutors are licking their lips, some of whom have lost family members at Fauci's hands. And here's why. They've got an ironclad case against Fauci, locked and loaded, just begging to be unleashed. It's an open and shut case, and they're itching to pull the trigger. We've got the details straight from the horse's mouth right after this important word from our sponsor.